Good afternoon and welcome to the Gender Speaker live show. It's Wednesday and this is my gender issues show. Recently I was talking to a fellow member of the Professional Speakers Association. We got onto the topic of gender. So today my guest is Marina Roberts, a life coach, and I'll be introducing her in just a minute. Hi, and welcome back, and welcome, Marina, to my show. So, so you've only really been in the PSA a short time, haven't you?
Yes, I'm probably one of the newest members. I only joined a couple of weeks ago.
Probably just before the convention. So you had a baptism of fire coming into the PSA convention.
Absolutely fantastic time. I've never met such a brilliant community as PSA.
It's an amazing group, isn't it? It's always been like that since the day we started. It's just been a very supportive group, and I think people expect that you know it's very competitive. All these people competing with each other, but in fact, they're helping each other, aren't they?
Yeah, I did not see that at all. That is the first thing which I noticed, that no one is competing. Actually, everyone is stretching out to help one another.
Yeah.
And I also learned that you were the one who started that, which is amazing.
Yes, yeah, well, a long time ago, a previous life as well. So, yeah, we're 21 years coming up in January since the launch. So, yeah, it's a long time. Yeah, what's nice, I think, is when we started the PSA, it was probably nearly 75% men in there. And what's interesting is that at the PSA convention this year, it was a very strong sense that women are at least 50% and probably even actually edging into the lead. A lot of female speakers now coming out, and I think it's collaborative associations which work and help, because this is what we're going to talk about. Is I don't think women from the beginning are coached in order to become being out as a solopreneur, working completely on your own, is not a comfortable place, I think, for a lot of women, is it? It's a bit of a challenge.
Definitely.
So, Marina, you started, let me just look with this, just a little bit of your background. You started with a degree in engineering. Not what that immediately creates an unexpected start, doesn't it?
Yes, I did. Yeah, it was a very unusual thing to do. And in fact, when I was growing up, going into tech was something where you would go to find a husband. And it was quite understandable when you walk into the huge auditorium and you see 30 guys and just one other girl. And the feeling was like, yeah, okay, since you're here, we're allowed to play with our toys. And the instant question was, so are you struggling to meet men? That's why you're here. I just could not believe the attitude of both teachers and students we had. That's just totally shocking.
So that was coming from the teachers as well as the students?
It wasn't openly said so, but you could see that, yeah, okay, let's get you through this as quickly as possible because we don't want to tie your little brain. Let's help you. So that was an interesting experience on its own, to be honest.
So, but you didn't then go into, you've not become a sort of champion of the whole STEM thing of women going into engineering.
No, it wasn't my thing, really. I was at school, I was really disliked by lots of teachers. A few things in there. One, I had a bad experience of being ridiculed in front of the class, and then for a few years afterwards, I couldn't speak since the age of 9, probably. I could not stand up and speak in front of the class. So I was automatically branded stupid, not so good. My parents took it on as well, said, okay, maybe she's not as bright as we wanted her to be. But when I enrolled on this engineering degree, this is something my dad studied, he was really, really proud. I have actually interesting relationship with my dad. My dad always wanted to have a boy. So when he had me as his second child, I think his hopes were up there, like it has to be a boy. and then it didn't happen. So what he did, he actually turned me into his little boy. I loved it. I loved painting the fence with him. I always would carry a hammer and do, like, proper boy things. But it wasn't really something which girls would do. So when I told my dad, okay, I'm going for this engineering degree, my plan A didn't work out. I'm not going to be a fashion designer. And he was like over the moon. He was completely happy that I've chosen. So that was my journey. But I was never really, a techie person. I didn't like it so much. I didn't enjoy my time learning about all the things like, all this instrument making, radio engineer, all this maths and physics just bore me to death. So I completed the study just to make my parents happy. And I remember the day when I got my diploma with my degree, and I handed it over, and I said, that's it, my obligation is completed. And I walked out and went and enrolled on a psychology degree, because that's what I really wanted to do. It's just nobody told me that you can just throw your toys out and just go and do what you enjoy. So I said, okay, I'll do something which my parents wanted me to do. Here we go. And then I started learning what I'm really passionate about, which is psychology. I went into human resources and all of this.
Now, it's interesting because my dad was an engineer. He'd been a Rolls-Royce engineer and on aeroplane engines. And so we were very much pushed, because I was obviously growing up as a boy, very much pushed towards engineering. And I completely failed. Well, I passed my maths, but physics didn't happen. Applied maths, just couldn't grasp it at all. So I went back and did economics and sociology, and then ended up doing drama and acting. So I took a completely different route. My brother, on the other hand, did become an engineer and worked in the oil fields and God knows what else. I can't think of anything worse. It would not have appealed to me at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we're asked to decide what we want to do for the rest of our life way too early.
I think you're right. Yeah. Well, and when you think about, I have a big challenge with it, with the way academia or schools are run, because it seems to me that the basic raison d'etre of schools is to get people into university, and anybody else who doesn't get to university is considered a failure and just dumped. I have a son who was really, really just could not handle school at all, couldn't handle academia. He's done very well for himself. He's done steel decking and building, and he's been a chef along the way, but all very practical, very hands-on types of things. And he went to a school eventually where they taught very much in a vocational, hands-on way, just accepting and acknowledging that for some people, academia just isn't where it's at. So you're now a mindset and confidence coach. So I'm going to come back to that in a minute. What took you into the Association of Speakers Clubs?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I was, when I worked in human resources, I had all sorts of meetings, going to companies, presenting about our business, and I had no problems whatsoever. Then I was asked to do a talk to a local community group, and which I said, yeah, of course I can do that. And I volunteered, and on the evening, I remember standing in front of these 50 people. I was completely, I was losing it. I was so petrified, and I couldn't understand why, because this is not a situation I feel uncomfortable in. And so I delivered my presentation, and everyone enjoyed it. I hated it. I really hated it. And I decided that it's not okay. I'm a grown up. I need to have it sorted. So I went and did a search and found a local club for Speakers Club. And I said, okay, those guys will teach me how to do that and how not to hate myself and how to do a better job. And I joined the Association of Speakers Club about 5 years ago now. And that was the best thing ever. That just did so much for me. I remember being so hesitant. It's actually 3 times I cancelled it. I would say I would get in touch with them. Yeah, I'm coming. I will be. And then I will either forget or just say, oh, sorry, not today. And I remember walking into this room saying, okay, I shouldn't allow myself to back up. That was quite a decision. And I enjoyed it so much because from first day, they totally embraced me, complete newbie, never done any speaking before as such. And I had... everyone is offered to have a go in the first meeting, and I had a go, and I did a little 2-minute talk, and the feedback I received just totally blew me. I got introduced in evaluation as we're in the presence of a very natural speaker. And an evaluator carried on talking about me, and I kept looking around, like, who is this gentleman talking about? It was such a shock to me. And then I realized this was actually probably the first time when somebody told me that I'm good at something. And it's just totally rocked my world. And I went and I did a lot of work on looking back into why I had these reservations, why I was struggling to speak in front of people. And this is when I uncovered all these memories of school years, which I've obviously happily forgotten and pushed to the back.
Yeah.
And that's how it all made sense. And that's how I managed to fix it.
Do you think in your work as a coach that, because I've obviously been involved with speaking clubs for a long time. I joined my first Toastmasters club back in 1990. And I've noticed through that time of helping people through those clubs, that women have generally had a bigger problem. When I changed gender, I became very acutely aware of the fact that women were more likely to avoid a speaking opportunity than grasp it. And I remember going to a meeting in Leeds, and it was really a talk about art and about some of the artworks in the Leeds gallery. And the speaker, really, really excellent speaker, sat on the floor out of sight and then collected the slides and spoke from that position out of everyone's sight. And I thought, why on earth is she doing that? And for half the presentation, she stayed out of the sight. It was only when a large painting came up, she needed to explain different parts of it, that she actually then stood up and started to literally talk about the painting. And I sat and was actually amazed that there was this really brilliant speaker, terrified to get in front of an audience. Now, do you find in the work you're doing it is a bigger problem for women to get up there and be themselves in front of an audience?
Definitely, absolutely. I came across so many women who really, really struggle. At some point, I was promoting literacy in children's books, and I was a bookseller. And we had this convention of leaders training and just generally getting to know each other, learning things on the conference. And at some point, we were asked to grab a book and to come and stand in front of the room, which was about 100 to 120 people.
Right.
And tell us, just sell the book, just hold the book and tell us why you like it. And I remember looking around and the horror on everyone's faces. It really shook me. Everyone was trying to almost like hide behind under the table just to make sure they don't get picked. And at that point, I was already doing quite well with the Speakers Club, and I managed to overcome this feeling. I knew exactly how to structure my talk and what to say. I was like, pick me now, because I want to do that. And everyone else thought I was completely crazy. And so I did, they did pick me in the end, and I presented the book, and everyone was taken aback that we had no idea that we can do that in this way. And that is 100% of the skills I learned with the Speakers Club from people who do a lot of speaking. So
let me look at this whole thing, because we started talking about this issue of social conditioning. I've got a little video which I show for some of my transgender awareness workshops. It's quite old. It's back, I think it's 2006, something like that. And it's of a young, twins, fraternal twins, so a boy and a girl, but the boy desperately sad, unhappy about being a boy and wants to be a girl. And the parents were struggling like mad with how to cope with this, because they just didn't know what to do. and nobody had told them that this was transgender. They didn't have even have any idea. They just had a child who absolutely hated anything to do with being a boy. And I think there was a sense that this might be some kind of sibling rivalry or something between twins. But they'd taken him to a doctor, and the doctor had said, I really don't know what to say. I think you just got to try and teach him how to be a boy. And I just thought, wow, what an unbelievably stupid thing to say. How do you teach that? So what they were saying is, look, I think you've got to socially condition this child in what it means to be male. So we got into a conversation, I know, about social conditioning. So this is obviously something that you've found quite impactful on your life, the way in which people are subtly and unconsciously conditioned into performing our stereotypical understanding of what it means to be female and male.
Absolutely. I think in my life in particular, I grew up in the Soviet Union, so I was probably more expected to be restricted in my choices and what I can be, what I need to be. And when we had a conversation a couple of years ago in a group of American women, they started talking about how they've been forbidden to take one path or the others, how they had to confine, how they had to go and choose doing things which they were allowed to do as a woman. And it really took me aback, because when you grow behind the iron curtain, you would think America is something completely, this is freedom, this is where all the freedom stays. And I had a shock of how is it possible that in my life nobody ever told me that I can't do something. And then I thought about it, and I realized actually nobody had to tell me that I can't do things. As I was growing up, I've been already conditioned to follow a certain path. I was conditioned to grow up and find a husband, to have children, to look after them, and to be a very good wife to my husband. How they did it, without telling me exactly what to do, it was always around everything in the media. It was in children's fairy tales. It was on TV. It was in conversations around the table, maybe at parties. You would overhear things, and this is how children learn what is right, what is wrong. I mean, my grandmother, bless her, she used to make us eat up our dinners by telling us that if you don't clean your plate, you're going to have a snotty husband. I don't know where that saying came from. It just doesn't make sense at all. But did I eat that dinner? I did not want to have a snotty husband. It worked so well, because I was already at the age of, 4, maybe 5, thinking that I'm going to do this because I don't want to mess up my future husband. So that's how you accept at this level already what is actually prepared for you in life. And when I go now around the streets, around the shops, and I see this conditioning popping up there and there, it just really takes me aback. If let's take the shoe shop. That's my favorite subject. People who know me, I go to Clark's, I'm going to take pictures of shoes for girls and for boys, because when you're buying shoes for your girl, you have a choice of something glittery, shiny, pretty, and totally impractical.
And pink.
And then you glance over to the boys' shoes, school shoes. They are definitely designed to be running, jumping, being really, really designed for fun activities. One for the girls, you can't jump in those shoes. They'll fall off, or they will scratch. They will, you can't walk across a puddle. They'll just get ruined straight away. So recently I had this another visit to Clark's shop with my son, and I was like, hooray moment, where they had 3 pairs of girl shoes which are actually matching the design of what they intended to be, which a girl can put them on and go enjoy outdoor physical activities rather than looking around being pretty. But still, I'm thinking, if you're a child and you walk into a toy shop, there is a huge pink section, there is a huge blue section, and the blue section is actually where all the fun stuff is. All the science experiments, all the outdoor games, everything. But girls wouldn't go there because they know that's for boys. And they go to the part where there are dolls, where they trained how to be mum, to have family, how to look after babies. And that is really, still disappointing for me, because
it's interesting. There's a campaign called Let Toys Be Toys, which has been running for quite a few years now. And they've been quite successful. They got Toys R Us before it disappeared, and The Entertainer and Mothercare before it disappeared, to start mixing stuff up again. Because in the 70s, when my children were growing up, we'd got through this. The second wave feminism had pretty much got rid of it. And so we were beginning to see toys as toys, and not be gendered. And then slowly, as we got into the 80s, everything became massively gendered again. And there was I don't know why it happened quite so fiercely, but suddenly you've got this whole thing. You say pink aisles and blue aisles. Now, the toy shops, the supermarkets, and various other shops have been trying, as a result of that campaign, to stop doing this. But they can't, because the manufacturers insist on still branding everything for girls pink and everything for boys blue, or at least darker colors. So and I was in a local shop up here, I think it was a Sainsbury's local, and a little boy picked up a Kinder toy, and it was the girls' one. And as he picked it up, the woman behind the counter said, "Oh, no, that's not for you. That's the girls' one. You should get that one."
Yeah.
And his mother just went nuts, and they had a real big blazing row in the shop, because everybody is just conditioned to this whole thing, aren't they? So
I can tell you I would be that mother as well, because I will not just stand back and watch that. And I would let my child know that this is not okay. That's definitely...
No, and it still happens. It's still all the time. We've got this constant social conditioning. So if we take this now into your work, working with women entrepreneurs, what sort of challenges does social conditioning give you in trying to coach women to run their businesses better?
It's incredible how much actually this conditioning is holding our women back. Because even if all the circumstances lay so that they can start a business, and they decide to make this decision, have a brilliant business idea, they go in, and something is stopping them and they have no idea why. And when you look back at how they were brought up, they were always taught to be polite. They were always taught not to boast about anything, like, you have to be modest, and you don't advertise yourself, your achievements or whatever.
So you can't promote yourself.
Yeah, no, you don't promote yourself at all. That's really, really wrong. And also, boys are always like pushed to the front, and boys can go and have fun, but we can stay in the back room and just enjoy quiet games.
And I noticed, I noticed one thing when I'm driving down the street and I see a man and a woman, young man and a woman, or somebody about to cross the road. The woman will wait until it's absolutely certain that I am going to stop before, and that there's no danger before they will cross. Yeah. Whereas the boy will walk into the road, stare at me, and defy me to not hit him. And it's this. Yeah. It seems to be now. The question is that risk-taking thing?
Yeah, I think that's a total new area altogether. It's it's one of those posts you see on social media, why women live longer than men. But yes, women will make sure that it's safe, and it's a lot of reason behind it.
But that must affect them in their business as well, because that makes it difficult to take a risky decision. I mean, right now, people are having to take risky decisions because we have no idea what the world's going to look like in the next year.
No, totally. Even there's such a simple thing. When I tell my clients, have you tried to do a presentation? Let's say there is a networking community, and they always offer people to have a 10-minute presentation about themselves. So have you tried that? And the horror is like, no, of course not. When you think about it, public speaking as such, and that is my favorite area actually, where it's considered to be a really, really dangerous thing to do. It's something we hear again, talking about conditioning, something we hear. If you think back when you, let's say, started work or or an apprentice somewhere, or just or were being promoted freshly, someone would say, oh, they have a presentation to do, and the response would be, oh, I'm so sorry, or better you than me. And people always do this, and some people openly say there's nothing worse than public speaking, or that petrifies me. So a young person grows up absorbing all these messages into the middle of our brain, which is our amygdala is keeping all the messages about how to keep us safe. So we don't cross the road, we don't stick our fingers in the socket, and we don't speak in front of a group, because that's dangerous. And when I come up with this idea, let's do the design presentation, which you will tell everyone what your business is. My clients usually take it really, really, I would say, cautiously, with precaution. They're not sure that it's actually a safe thing to do, and sometimes they don't even realize why they're protesting so much, why they would deny such a brilliant opportunity for their business. It's because they think that this is very, really not safe. And the only thing which we can do to stop that, actually to overcome that, is to actually do it. Because you can't override this message you can't override your thought with an start an action, because action can cancel all your thoughts which have no backing to that. Once you stand up and present in front of the room, the new message in your amygdala is going to be, okay, this is safe to do so next time when you get up and do the same, you will start actually be better, and you will enjoy it better, and the more you do it, the more natural it will become.
I've always encouraged everybody to learn how to speak. If you want to go into management, if you want to be a business leader, whatever, if you want to be a leader, you have to learn to speak in public, and speak in public well, not just amateur. And I also suggest take a drama class, because the first thing that happens in a drama class is you make a fool of yourself. And this is the problem with
speaking. Take a drama class.
What?
I'd love to take a drama class. I think this is the best thing ever.
Well, pop to Ivan Arno. I think I've got some stuff in Guildford, but
oh yeah.
But the thing is that, but even your Association of Speakers Clubs, when you're doing topics and things like that, and you will, eventually you get the confidence to get up there and just do stuff and don't be silly. I remember taking my son to a Toastmasters club one day, and he literally decided to, as part of his talk, he just fell on the floor, and it just. No, he had the courage just to get out there and do something. It got a good laugh. It wasn't laughing at him. It was laughing at his speech. Yeah. But I think the big problem with speaking is fear of ridicule, fear of shame. If you're a fan of Brené Brown, you'll know the work she's done with this fabulous books. And it's the number one fear. Everybody thinks fear of public speaking is the big fear. It's not. We're terrified of being humiliated. And I think women, for some reason, grow up with a greater fear of ridicule and humiliation than men. And I'm not quite sure why that is.
Well, I think women are more conditioned again to be pleasing others, if it makes sense. You only can be validated if you're good to someone else. So if you are not doing a good job and people see that you're not doing a good job, so they're not pleased, so that is you not fulfilling what it is actually in your understanding what your job is, what you need to do. As against men would never stop and think twice. I mean, I'm not saying there are no men with anxiety about public speaking. We have quite a few of those as well. But for women, I think it's the roots are much deeper than for a man.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the thing about jokes. We're seeing more and more really, really good comedians now who are getting up and really, I mean, people like Sarah Millican and some of the names have gone at the moment, but I'm hopeless with remembering names of artists. But I know when I watch Jonathan Ross's Comedy Club and various other shows that are on at the moment, there are more and more women involved. It's still more men than women. But we have some really, really good women telling stories. And I think the shift has been because comedians don't tell jokes anymore. They tell stories with funny punchlines in them.
Yeah.
And that's probably where the difference is, that women are actually have always been better at telling stories. And can, amongst a group of women, and this is what I discovered when I changed gender. I went to women's meetings and everybody was laughing. Absolutely, I mean, not just laughing, but falling off their chair laughing, absolutely silly laughing over silly conversations that, you think, well, that wasn't really that funny, but yes, it was. It was. Whereas men have this habit of standing around at the bar telling jokes, and it's a competition who can tell the funniest joke.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas women will sit around the bar and they will tell stories, and they will add to each other's stories and create a continuous cycle of story that isn't competitive, it's collaborative. And it's that difference which keeps on turning up, that women collaborate, men compete. Women do compete, but I think women are much more effective when they're collaborating, and that's what you see with the PSA. I've noticed quickly women get together and support each other.
Absolutely, yes. And I had the same in my own networking group, which I run in my town for women only. And a lot of men try to actually to be accepted into this group and I was really firm that I know this is for women only. And because I've done that, I made that mistake once. I said, okay, one man can come in, and he claimed that he wanted to give back. He didn't want to, to gain interest on this. And what I noticed that the dynamics of the group changed immediately as he walked in, and I realized it's not a women-only group. And it was really, really interesting. And of course, needless to say, that half an hour in, this man was trying to book an appointment with each person in the room so he can sell his stuff. And once, after that bad experience, I said, okay, no more men in here. And what I noticed is when we get together and we would say, okay, this is my business, this is who I am, that is a problem I'm working on. And everybody just joins in and trying to help. So, with such an open heart, so openly and willingly. And it doesn't matter if somebody else in the room has the same business as this person. They would share their experience and they would actually help each other out rather than just trying to compete. As you said, it's totally different experience.
Now, the question is that process a social conditioning process, or is that an instinctive difference in the way that women are?
Oh, that's a process. That's definitely a process. It's unfortunately a process which ingrains so much into our lives that we stop noticing it, and we don't know that. And also, when I talk about it, why we're still treating girls differently to boys, I usually draw this timeline, and I put this overlapping. Like, this is your life, this is your mother's life, this is your grandmother's life. And you can see that we actually receiving our knowledge from our grandparents, which is probably not the best example of a gender stereotype area, because it's not really what we live by now, but still it kind of creeps into our normal. When you're a child, the first thing you learn, this becomes your normal, and this is how you take on. This is what life about, and these are the rules.
I'm challenged by the nature nurture thing all the time. I did my master's degree in gender research, so it was one of the topics I studied immensely. I've noticed that if you look at organizations, they're structured predominantly by men. They were set up by men, and they're structured on a hierarchical structure with chief executive at the top, and then a command and control system that basically and it's all based upon, it's still militarily based. We talk captains of industry. We talk about the staff as being troops, and we go to war with our competitors. It's just the battlefield has changed. When women run the business, it's interesting that publicly it appears to be the same. It still appears to have a hierarchical structure, but talking to women running businesses where they've got a lot of staff, they said, no, actually doesn't work like that at all. I'm at the center of a network, and that's how the business works. So rather than being a hierarchical structure in a triangle, it's actually a circle with the entrepreneur right at the center of it, connected to every single person throughout there, but allowing people to go off and do their own thing as long as they achieve the goals. And I think that I sense that that's actually an instinctively natural difference. That women work on networks where men work on structures, hierarchical structures. And it's not all men, not all women, obviously. I don't want to be stereotypical here, but generally, as I've looked at it more and more, I was going to do my PhD looking at that topic to try and see how different it was. Marina, it's been really great to have you on the show. Look at the time now. I would like to try and keep it to about half an hour. We've just gone slightly over. If anybody would like to get in touch with Marina, there's her website. It's at marinaroberts.com. I've got that right, haven't I?
Yeah, absolutely.
And lots of interesting information there. So if you want to find out more, please do contact Marina there. Life coaching predominantly for women, helping women to become better entrepreneurs by overcoming some of that social conditioning and actually allowing the natural woman to come out and run their businesses. Would that be a fair summary?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I would love to hear from everyone. Actually, I'd love to have conversations and learn more how it affects everyone's life, because it's amazing what you learn about it. But thank you so much. It was lovely talking to you. I love talking to you at any time anyway, and I learned so much from your live show. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Marina. Really appreciate that. Just hold there a minute and I'll be back with you while I just close the show down. Okay, so for if you're interested, don't forget, I've got my trans and non-binary inclusive workshop running on the 17th of November. It's just a 2-hour show. I set something up recently saying it was actually about a 2-week show. That was completely wrong. It's just 2 hours. And it's very simple. Pay what you can afford. Recommended about £20, but just come along. And if you want, join me on Sunday for my LGBTQ history show. I'll be looking a little bit more into the history of the LGBTQ community. So there we go. That's the end of today's show. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Take care.